Hello everyone, welcome to the Not So Dumb Idiot podcast. It's me, Nico Shepard, your gracious host, and we're here to discuss many things including the do's and don'ts of life, this mess that we consider adulthood, many other topics. But first, before we go any further, we want to talk about one very specific thing, and that's the coronavirus. First of all, we want to say everyone be safe out there. Condolences for anyone who have contracted this virus and have passed. And for those who do have symptoms of this virus, please stay inside. There's a lot of facilities around America right now. I know that New York City is being hit very hard. And we want to give a shout out to everyone out there, the nurses, the doctors, the emergency workers, the firefighters, the police department, those who are really out there tackling this thing head on. And before we go any further, we would love to say thank you guys for that. Thank you for going out there and sacrificing yourself for us. And to go forward, guys, those who have had those close to them who have had this kind of illness or sickness or anything that's going around that, again, can be catastrophic, please take care of your health. Please do not put other people at risk, and please keep in mind that this world is ours to share. Don't be selfish. That partying, I know it's spring break time, all these other things that are going on, but we have to be safe, and we have to remember that it's not us. We're not alone. There's a lot more to it than our own individual pleasure. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. Again, guys, this is the Not So Dumb Idiot podcast, and again, a lot of the topics we will be covering will be things that the everyday person have to go through. Whether it be buying a car, buying your first house, drugs, scamming, anything along the lines of growing up from a teenager to a young adult. And I hope you guys are here with us, and I hope you guys understand that everything that we do talk about is from experience. It's from our everyday personal life. It's from understanding that we have gone through things that everyone go through. It doesn't make us any expert. It doesn't make us smarter than the next man. It doesn't make us any better than the next man. But it does give us good insight, and this is why the show is titled the Not So Dumb Idiot Podcast. Because again, though we may be limited when it comes to finances or the school or the academic achievements, we are experiencing our own right, and we've done a lot. And today it's just me. My co-host will be here pretty shortly, and we'll record going forward with multiple hosts. But today it's just me. So one of the topics we're going to talk about today, and this is one that's near and dear to me because this is my profession. It is about real estate. It's about the realtor life. It's about understanding that we all hope to own our own properties. We all hope to own our own home, our own estates, so to say, or so to speak, I should say. So yeah, let's get into it. Some of the things, I had a bunch of people actually submitted some inquiries on my Facebook page. That's the Nico Shepard Realtor page, and we put together the top, maybe let's say 10 or so, 5 to 10 questions. I'm not sure if we'll get through all of them, but it's some question that I do feel that we all would love the answer to. And some of the question is, how much house can I afford? Or how can I go about the process? Or what is the process of owning a home? And again, I'm here to explain that to you. So bear with me as we go through that today. All right. So first question, what is real estate, right? Real estate is property, owning real property. And in the sense of real estate, as I was taught, is that when it comes to real estate, a business is not necessarily real estate. A name, a brand is not real estate. Nothing is real estate unless it connects to a real property. And by that we mean whether it's a structure, a house, a piece of land, even a business that's attached to a house or a piece of land. That's what we consider real estate. So going forward, Keep that in mind throughout this process. When we say real estate, we're talking about the tangible portion of anything you purchase in terms of land, house, business, commercial properties, and going forward. So we can sit down and we say, well, now that we know what real estate is, well, how can I, a young person or an older person, a teenager prepping to become an adult, we're talking 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, getting ready to become an adult, or a young adult, anyone at all. This is for you in terms of real estate. We've got to keep in mind that though we may know what it is to purchase a property or to have a property, the process can be very difficult and it's very time consuming. And this is where I always suggest, unless you're in the profession yourself, to always seek professional advice, because this is something that's you and I, if we've never been through it, will never really understand. There's a lot of paperwork involved. Contracts are a major thing. Here in Florida, we're recording out of Florida for anyone who does not know. Here in Florida, one of the big things is our contracts are 12 pages, give or take. We may have a 13th page based on whether or not your company want to include a little bit more information. So that's one thing to keep in mind. However, I believe it is the same general amount for the rest of the country, which is good. So pretty much a contract, a real estate contract. Let's use a residential contract. It's the simplest way. This is for anyone who's looking to purchase. With a residential real estate contract, one of the things you have to keep in mind is this. Those 12 pages are agreements. These are legal binding agreements. The moment you sign an initial those pages, it becomes a legal signed document that can be upheld in court. Okay, so that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. This is again why I suggest anyone who's looking to purchase real estate to definitely reach out to a professional, that is a realtor, a real estate agent, a broker, that this is their thing. These are people that sit down, they see hundreds of contracts a year. Okay, we're talking an agent who, let's say, only have 10 sales in a year may write 5 contracts, or they may see 5 contracts before they finally get that one deal. So that's something to keep in mind as we go forward. Contracts are super important, and you need help with these things. Yes, they have real estate lawyers out there, but remember, real estate lawyers and real estate agents or realtors are different people. Okay, here in Florida, we rely a lot on our title companies when it comes to standard properties, as opposed to a state like New York, for instance. They're big on lawyers. You get your lawyer, I get my lawyer, put together an agreement. We send it to each other's lawyer, we agree, we sign, we send it back, and so on and so forth. Okay, so back to the subject at hand, and that's purchasing a home. First thing, hire your agent. Or again, if you're a buyer, and this is a big thing, a lot of people do not know this. If you are a buyer, 99% of the times, you do not pay your agent commission. Okay? That's a big thing to remember. 99% of the time, buyers do not pay a commission. Okay? You may have to pay a transaction fee. Again, that's based on the brokerage you choose. Some are very low. Some are maybe $45. Some are $345. Some may be $1,000. It's all based on what agreement you had with that agent going into it. Okay? So again, buyers, please hire an agent. Hire someone who knows what they're doing. Second step, okay, and this is probably the most important step, in my opinion, when it comes to purchasing a home. That step is this. Please reach out to either your bank, a lender, a broker, someone who can get you financed if you're going to finance. If you're not going to finance and you're going to use cash, hey, by all means, more power to you. But if you're going to purchase using a financial method, please contact a broker, a bank, or a lender, someone who can get you financed, okay? Because that's, to me, the most important thing. You will never believe the amount of times I show homes to people who, they're pre-approved for X amount, let's say 200,000, and what's in their range isn't exciting enough. And then they see something, or maybe an agent before show them something that was 400,000, which was out of their range. It's very disappointing when you realize that you cannot purchase above what you're pre-approved for unless you have the finance in the bank already. Okay, so again, the most important thing to me is making sure you do have that pre-approval letter from a certified lender, a certified broker, or a certified bank. Okay, and these letters are fairly simple. They're nothing extravagant. They're nothing out of this world. They're just simple things that they can take care of by running your credit, by looking at your finances. And bear in mind, pre-approval and pre-qualification are two different things. Okay, with the pre-approval, the bank or the lender or the broker, and we're gonna use broker going forward, or the lender going forward. I don't want to keep going back to banker, broker, lender. We're gonna stick to one. So let's say your lender, your financial advisor, your lender in this process, they're going to look at your finances, look at your credit score, look at your tax return, look at your pay stubs, your bank statement. These are the things that they will require to get you pre-approved. This is what every realtor like to see. This is what I like to see. When I see a pre-approval letter, I know, okay, you're serious, you've gone through providing the documents for the most part for what your lender needs. The next thing is a pre-qualification. Okay, a pre-qualification is a bit different from a pre-approval, because with a pre-qualification, they simply run your credit score, and based on what you tell them, they give you a pre-qualification stating, hey, you're pre-qualified for X amount based on what you've told us and what your credit score has determined. Okay, so that's the most important thing. Again, we want to get that pre-approval letter or pre-qualification letter going before we can do anything else, and that's coming from an agent. I hate showing properties without having any idea of what's what. And it's not necessarily you're an agent who's hungry or greedy. It's more along the lines of you have so many people in this industry to service. So many people. And you don't want to do them a disservice because, madam and husband want to just look at property for the sake of looking at property. It doesn't help you, doesn't help your family, it doesn't help the owner of the property that they're looking at. Okay? So again, so far we have two things that we have to do. Hire an agent. That's our number one thing. And the biggest thing, our number two thing, is see how much house you can afford by speaking to a lender and getting pre-approved. Okay? Now, next step in purchasing a home, right? You want to find out what neighborhood you'd love to live in. Okay? Not every neighborhood is safe. Not every neighborhood is good for you. Not every school district is good for you. It's a major thing. And because of that, you have to keep in mind that, listen, this is how my family, or this is how I am going to be happy the next few years going forward. The fact that I know that I'm in a good neighborhood, a safe neighborhood. Some people may have, or some husband may have a wife, and the husband worked too much, so the wife is home alone. The husband, want to make sure his wife is safe. Or let's say a wife, single mother maybe, have children. She works late hours. They come home before she does. She want to make sure her children are safe. Now that's one of the big things. As a realtor, realtors are not allowed to discriminate in any fashion. We're not allowed to steer you in neighborhoods. We're not allowed to say, hey, that's a bad neighborhood, go over here. We're not allowed to do anything of that sort. Okay? We can only provide the facts that are in front of us. And when we do that, we try to be as honest as possible without coming off as judgmental to a neighborhood. We don't want to come off as judgmental to an owner. Sometimes I've seen homes that are in the worst neighborhood that are immaculate. I've seen homes that are in the best neighborhood that are garbage. Okay, so those are some of the things we want to keep in mind. But yeah, as we go forward. So again, for those who are late and are new to this podcast, this is the Not So Dumb Idiot podcast. And again, we're just here, just speaking about our first topic, which today is the housing, how to purchase a house, how to buy your first home. And you're with me, Nico Shepherd, your gracious host again. Again, we want to give a shout out to all our doctors, nurses, our firefighters, our policemen, those emergency workers, our bankers, gas station workers, gas station owners, everyone out there who is an essential part of life, fast food workers. Again, these are the individuals that have taken this storm that we have, which is the coronavirus, by the neck, and it's fighting it back for us. So again, thank you guys for that. Again, back to our topic at hand. We have two things so far, three things actually: neighborhoods, agent, and pre-approval. Okay. Next thing we want to tackle is will the home you're buying, the house you're gonna buy, is it gonna be worth the investment over time? Would your house get that value back? And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yes, yes, yes. Okay. The reason why we say that, think about it. Our crash in the housing market crash, our economic depression in 2007, 8, 9, 10, around that time period where we had this major market crash. Okay, that was due to the real estate. That includes lenders, that includes real estate agents, that include houses, everything in that time frame, interest rate, federal, everything that was going on, banks. It was just a mess. Okay, guys, and even in that time, values of homes were so high at one point, and then it came crumbling down. Well, I'm here to tell you some good news. Today in 2020, we're in March, okay? In March 2020, one of the biggest things that they've done the research on and note is that if price and if all these other individuals was not meddling in the real estate market in that 2007 time frame, the growth, the appreciated value of homes, which we want to say about 3% a year, let's give or take about 3% a year, the growth from 2007 to 2020, we are exactly where we would have been if things were done correctly. Okay, so what that tells me is this, that no matter how tough the market gets, the value of your home will always rise. If we have a crash, it will come back. Because here's another thing for those people out there that are looking to invest in properties. Even if you buy your house, and let's just say there's a crash, God forbid, let's say there's a crash, okay? You can still rent your property out. You can still pay your mortgage using those rents. Okay, you can still pay your property taxes using those rent. You can still pay your insurance using those rent if you calculate and do it correctly. Okay, I'm not saying it's for everybody. It's not for everybody. But if your house is there and you're worried about it appreciating value, no need to worry, because it is going to increase. Okay, that's one of the biggest things you can have in mind. Okay, now let's move on to now. You found your house. Okay, you found the house that you want to buy. You know this is going to increase in value. You got your pre-approval letter, and you got your agent doing a fantastic job. How do we get this thing done? How do we, as a unit, me and my agent, me and my lender, me and the new title company, me and the companies that I'm working with, the insurance, the inspection company, how do we get this thing to closing? How do I get to own that property? Well, this is where your agent comes in. First off, you want to buy a house. You see the house across the street. You love it. They list it at, let's just say, $225,000, right? And let's say, well, with that $225,000, you were pre-approved by your lender for $220,000. Your agent suggests, hey, Mary. We're going to use Mary here because we don't have an actual name. So we're going to use Mary. Let's go. Mary, I know your husband John said he loved that house and you love that house. But you don't know what to offer for that house. You're not pre-approved for $225, but you're pre-approved for $220. Here's what I'm going to tell you. As your agent, let's send them an offer for $215,000. That's $10,000 under. We know the house has been on the market for 25 days. And it says that the seller would love to get out of this property quickly so they can move to Neverland, right? Well, your agent comes out, he brings you a contract, 12-page contract, okay? And with this 12-page contract, one of the things we note is that in that said contract, you're looking at a lot of little details that if you're not an agent, this is where it gets complicated. Sorry about that. I was reaching for one of my books, right? And if you're not an agent, you don't understand certain things that has to do with a contract. And some of these things include, let's say, inspection deadlines. And I always say, my biggest thing in every single contract I have ever written, every one of them, I tell my buyers or my sellers, we do not want to be the reason this thing does not work. So, in order to avoid that, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stick to our contract. And my biggest thing in those contracts is deadlines, dates, time from which this contract is executed to the next thing on the list. So for instance, we write the contract. We say, hey, we're offering $215. First page of the contract. This is where you put what you think the price, you want to offer the price, what you're going to put down for escrow. And for those who do not know, an escrow is a good faith deposit. It is not required in the state of Florida. However, again, it's a good faith deposit, meaning this is something that we're going to put up as a down payment deposit to let you know, seller, that I, buyer, am serious about your property. Okay, so you put on the contract $215,000 we're offering. We're gonna put $1,000 down for escrow. We're gonna put this $1,000 down within 3 days from the day the seller signs and we sign and we have an executed contract. Okay, we're gonna send this money to the title company or the lawyer that the seller designate. Or if you designate, I don't recommend my buyers doing this because you will have to pay for it. Whoever designate the title company or the lawyer ends up paying. Okay, so at least here in Brevard County, anyway. Okay, so that's one thing we got to keep in mind. All right, so next thing on that contract, we have we give the sellers 24 to 48 hours to reply. Okay, we put our balance. We continue down, we say, hey, we want to close by this day, 30 days from the day we execute this contract. Okay? Let's say we got that page sorted out. We put in the other information such as we're not going to assign this contract, we're going to unsign this contract, inspection days, 10 days, just a couple different things in the contract. Okay? And this is where, again, your agent becomes almost like a savior, because they know these things that you don't know as yet. Excuse me. Okay, so continuing. So we get the contract. Excuse me, gotta check on something real quick. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that little brief interruption. So again, seller comes back, say, hey, tell them $220 and the property's theirs. So seller signed initial and send over a updated contract. It is not executed as yet because what they've done now is change the purchase price. Okay, purchase price has changed. It comes back to your agent reviews, see if there's any changes. Note that there's a couple changes, and the biggest change is purchase price, and because of that, the total at the end will change. Okay, so we take it back to our buyers. Buyers, here's the contract. This is what it is, $220. Buyers excited because they're already pre-approved for $220,000. So you know what we do now? Buyer agrees, initial the changes, get it to the seller. Seller initial, get it back to us. Now we have what we call an executed contract. We now, seller's agent, buyer's agent, get this contract over to title company. Title company have this contract. Now what's our next step, right? Title company have the contract. Well, now we have to follow a few other things in that contract. And one of the biggest thing is deadlines again. We want to put our escrow in within the deadline date we set. We want to schedule our inspection. We want to follow through with our portion of the contract to where we're not stuck, okay? All right, so we're there with the contract. The status in the MLS change, which is the multiple listing service. This is what realtors use to advertise properties, the easy way to every other agent in their board. All right. So one of the next things we want to do is, if you're doing a loan, you want to get your application submitted to your lender. Yes, your lender gave you the pre-approval, but you have not started the loan application processes yet. Okay? And this is the process in which you now fill out the documents that the lender requires. This is when you submit your tax return, your pay stubs. This is where you submit your bank statement, all the things that the lenders require to move forward. Okay? Then we have our inspection. We get our inspector out there, inspect the property. We order an insurance. Okay, we get our loan approval. We get an appraisal to make sure the value that they said, the $220 they want, is worth it. Okay, we clear all other contingencies, which is a contingency, if you guys are not aware of, it's restrictions or based upon, or if this go well, or we can move on based on this. Okay. So once we get those things cleared, we got our loans and everything approved, we're completed. We order a survey, okay? We have hazard insurance, insurance policies, title, stuff like that, right? We then have our closing date set. So even though we said our closing date is 30 days out, remember, anything can happen within this time frame that caused that date to either go back or move forward, okay? So we have that set. Then we have another inspection, but this inspection is a pre-closing inspection. This inspection is where buyer's agent, seller agent do what we call a formal walkthrough. We walk through the property one more time to make sure this is the property we saw 30 days ago that we still want to purchase today. Okay? Then buyers are given what they call a settlement, an alta statement. This statement gives you all the finances, what the buyer needs to come up with, what they're paying for, what the seller's paying for, what the seller gets, taxes, and everything is broken down in our settlement statement. Then buyers send in their amount. Once the funds are sent in, buyers now have a chance to actually get this thing closed, because look at the bright side, okay? You send your money in, the property is still the same property, contracts are still good. Okay, and because of that, the next thing we move forward with is we get to that closing table, and we get there, we sit down right across the table. We have Mr. and Mrs. Smith with their agent, Bob. Then we have Mary and John, and Mary and John's agent, Muhammad. Okay, we're at that table, everything is looking good, and the last thing, if you're using a lender, hopefully it's a quick lender who's willing to send those packages over, because you're going to have a stack of papers to sign. And I'm not even joking, especially if you're an FHA or a VA lender. You're going to see some things that you wish, crap, I could have skipped this part at the beginning. But it is what it is. This is the good stuff. Don't be frightened. Don't be scared. I know a lot of people think you're signing your life over, and in reality you are. But to be honest, it's going to be one of the happiest moments of your life. I've seen it countless times, especially when you're coming from a background where you're constantly working, constantly busting your butt, you're renting and you're paying this high rent for somebody else who's taking your rent money to pay their mortgage. Okay, that's one of the things I see a lot. So, again, you're across the table. You guys finally sign. They hold up the jingles of keys. Ching, 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 ching. And those keys are going to be some of the greatest gifts you've ever gotten. If your agent is a good agent, they'll bring a little closing gift for you. Again, remember, you don't pay your agent, so everything they're doing is because they really took the time out to help you. Okay, the sellers take care of their commission. A lot of the times, agents bust their butts and get nothing out of it, and it hurts a lot. Trust me, I've been there. I've seen it a lot. So just remember that when you're doing that process with that agent, they're really committed to getting it done for you. So we signed our contracts. We figured out everything. We got the house. What do we do next? What do we do next? The next thing we do, right? We prep for things such as moving. How do we move in time? How do we get the truck? These are things that we want to do ahead of time, but a lot of times you're so caught up. But some of the biggest things you want to do is not only that, you also want to make sure you turn on the utilities in your name. Okay? Turn on the utilities in your name. Because a lot of times we forget, and when we forget, we will move into a house, the house is hot, the pool pump wasn't running, so the pool is green, the water, you got to go down to City Hall to get that turned on, and that's a pain in the neck. You got to put this, you want to get all of those things sorted out before you get to your new home. Okay, so now we've gone through the process of actually purchasing the home. And again, for those who are late, this is the Not So Dumb Idiot podcast. Again, I'm your gracious host, Nico Shepard. And again, we want to thank all our emergency workers out there, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the policemen, the essential workers such as the gas station worker, the fast food worker, the grocery worker, those that work the small jobs that we always kind of undervalue. We want to say thank you guys. You guys are doing the best you can, and we appreciate it. And for those of you, again, who are out there who have are living in these cities or living in these places where they're telling you guys to stay inside, stay inside. You got to understand this is a thing that is very contagious. You may not have symptoms, but you can still have it, okay? And by having it, you can take it to someone else who might have it. So listen to the emergency provisions that our doctors and our nurses are telling us to do, okay? And just keep an eye open for what's going on and give people their space. I don't know how many times we have to tell people this. We tell it to children all the time. Give people their space. Get out of their space. It's the same concept. Do it and we will be just fine. Okay, now back to what we were saying. We're now purchased our house. We're good to go. And the next thing you want to know is, well, now that I have my house, well, what do I do? Well, Mary, John, now you maintain your house. Now you pay your bills on time. Now you make sure that the utilities are paid on time. Now you make sure that you can maintain it to increase the value that you wanted when you first thought about purchasing a house for the long term. Okay, so that's pretty much the basis of buying a house. If you need any information, you can always reach out to me. Our email address is the notsodumbidiottpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to reach out to us, you can always call us 321-313-8576. We're always available for those who need help, especially when it comes to the real estate market. This is something that I personally know, and this is something that I personally take seriously. So those are the steps. That's what you do. Again, thank you guys for being with us. Again, it's your gracious host, Nico Shepard, Not So Dumb Idiot Podcast. Have a great day, and we'll catch back up soon. All right? See you guys.